Shields up, Iron Breakers. Rurikhan here, coming at you with another video, and I gotta be completely honest. When I started this, it was just a video where I was reacting to the reveal of Diablo Immortal because I was disappointed by it, and I think that a lot of you guys were also disappointed by it because, you know, Blizzard kind of hyped this up a little bit, albeit in a controlled fashion. They did say, you're probably not going to get what you want, but you're going to get something Diablo related. So I think we were going into Blizzcon. I mean, I didn't physically attend, but I did watch the opening ceremony. And we went to Blizzcon, you know, expecting maybe we'll get a Diablo 2 remaster, which to me would have been friggin' amazing. I mean, if you guys noticed, the music that I usually have playing in the background of these videos is the original soundtrack for Diablo 2, because that, to me, is my favorite entry in the franchise up until this point. Sure, I like Diablo 1. Sure, I like Diablo 3 after the Reaper of Souls, because before the Reaper of Souls, that auction house... But Diablo 2 is still the one that holds a special place in my heart, so a Diablo 2 remaster would have just, like, blown me away. But even if we didn't get a Diablo 2 remaster, I was like, okay, then we're getting some... Even if we don't get that, we'll probably get something for... Diablo 3, maybe a new expansion, maybe a new class, maybe something cool, maybe a new gameplay mode, I don't know, maybe Diablo 3 goes games as a service. I was even speculating maybe they're finally going to do some kind of a PvP balance to Diablo 3 to make it actually okay, because I used to do a lot of PvP in Diablo 2 back in the day. I know you can make fun of it all you want, but I had a lot of fun in that stuff. But anyway, it's like, you know, there was so many things that they could have done that we would have been, oh, dude, that's awesome. But for them to finish the BlizzCon opening ceremony on, you know, Diablo Immortal and nothing else, it's like, you need to understand something about the Blizzard fan base. Like, because I've been to BlizzCon and I've been there on the spot, and usually we're a pretty loud bunch. Like, we'll thunderous applause, thunderous roars of approval, all of that stuff. Like, let me tell you, back in 2013, I think, I was at Gamescom when Legion was announced. And there was this big hall, gigantic freaking hall. And when they announced Legion, the whole hall was shaking. Like, the floor was shaking, okay? And this is not like we're on the top of a building or something. It's a hall. It's ground level. It was literally shaking. And every single feature that they announced during that Gamescom, they're like, oh, and Demon Hunters, rah! The walls would shake with the excitement. That's what you can expect from Blizzard fans. And to see the crowd's reaction to the announcement of Diablo Immortal was basically barely a whimper. People that were there described it as if you could drop a pen on the ground and everyone would hear it, because people were just like, they were saying people walked off after that presentation like they were in a daze. They were just like, what the hell just happened? It's almost one of those situations where a bomb drops and everybody's just like, you know, still the ringing in your ears. Those were the descriptions that I've personally heard for the reaction there. And I can sympathize. I can sympathize because, you know, it was not what we expected. It was not what most of us wanted. And we were most definitely not the target audience. Despite, further in this video, I will talk more about that. They do claim that we were the target audience, which is really weird. But ultimately what I'm getting at is that it's been hard for me to do these videos because I don't usually do this kind of stuff. And I don't enjoy doing it. Like, the very first video that I ever did on YouTube was to teach people how to tank in World of Warcraft because I wanted people to enjoy that aspect of the game. Some of the success that I've had on YouTube was when I started telling people that Dark Souls is not as hard as everybody else is making it out to be, because it isn't. My thing is, I like to bring people to something that maybe they don't feel particularly comfortable trying out, and I like to show them, look, this is not that hard. Like, seriously, try it out. Here, like, start like this and then get better over time. The latest example of that would be Monster Hunter, how I brought a lot of new people into Monster Hunter world by telling them, look, here's how this weapon works, try this out. Here's how this thing works, try this out. You know, and I like bringing people to new experiences so that they can have fun. I'm not claiming that I'm an expert on any of these games, whether that is World of Warcraft or Dark Souls or Monster Hunter World. From time to time, people like to call me a veteran of this game. I don't see myself as an expert. I think I know a thing or two about them, but I'm definitely not an expert. There's leagues of people that are way better than me at any other game that I play. I just like to bring more people in so that they can have fun, so that they can join the community. I like positivity. I like to bring people good news. So whenever I look up new things about Diablo, it is in the hopes of telling people, guys, we're getting Diablo 4. Here's what it looks like. It's going to be awesome. And here's all this information that I gathered. That's the expectation that I go looking up on new information for Diablo. I don't go looking up on information for Diablo looking for these leaked press conferences that I found recently. That's definitely not what I want. I want to be reporting on, hey guys, we're getting a Diablo 3 expansion. Here's what it looks like. We're getting Diablo 2 remastered. I want to bring you the good news. I don't want to bring you all of this other stuff that I've kind of been reporting on the last couple of days. And I know that there's a lot of people out there saying, oh, but we're definitely getting Diablo 4. It's just like, no problem whatsoever. And it's like, yeah, we were definitely going to get Project Titan a couple of years ago, too. Whatever happened to that? Oh, yeah, it became Overwatch, which, bear in mind, Overwatch, fantastic friggin' game, dude. I love Overwatch. I think it's a great game, even though I don't play it all that often because it's not really the kind of genre that I tend to play very often, but I think it's a great game. But ultimately, what I'm getting at is that, sure, Diablo 4 might be in the works, but until Blizzard officially announces it, it might as well not exist because there's no guarantees that it will ever be released. That's the way that I look at it. Some people are like, nah, you're crazy, dude. It's definitely going to happen. Definitely going to happen. Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, it took them a whole long time to bring Diablo 3 around. And during that time period, they were saying, no, we're not going to follow up on Diablo 2. So, yeah. You can expect Diablo 4 to come. I don't know whether or not it's going to come. I'm not going to speculate on it. What I can tell you is that I would have been much more reassured if it had been announced. But anyways, I see a lot of comments on the previous videos that I did on this of people like, boycott Blizzard, fuck Blizzard, I hate Blizzard, all of this other stuff. And I want you to understand, that is not my opinion. I don't hate Blizzard. If I hated Blizzard, I would have done one video and I would have never talked about this again because I would have moved on. Because when there is pure hatred, I don't waste any time with it. It's quite the opposite. I love Blizzard. I'm playing World of Warcraft right now. Actively playing World of Warcraft because, you know, despite all of its flaws, I'm still enjoying some aspects of the new expansion. And you're free not to like it, that's fine. Doesn't make my opinion any different. I still enjoy a lot of Blizzard titles, and I still think there's a lot of talented people over at Blizzard. And I hope that I'm able to bring you guys better news soon. But until then, we have this. Let's get started. I'm not particularly excited to do this, but... So I watched a bunch of videos recently. One of those videos was the Rurikhan reaction. It's a 1 hour, 18-minute video where he talks about how he felt about all the things that took place at Blizzcon. I also watched the Diablo Immortal impressions by Lord Fluffy, which for those of you that do not know, Lord Fluffy is the guy who asked, is this coming to PC or is this mobile forever? And the crowd booed immediately after he asked that question because Wyatt said no. Then we're going to be talking about this particular press conference. I'm not going to be playing this clip. The reason I'm not going to be playing these leaked press conferences is because I've attended some of these press conferences, maybe not Blizzard ones, but I've attended other ones from other companies. And usually they respectfully ask you not to film and upload the footage uncut online. And I'm not sure if Blizzard said that or not, but out of respect, I will not be playing this clip. I will also not be playing this one and this one. I know that a lot of people probably want to talk to me about this one. This one is where they say that they're moving a lot of their best developers onto mobile. And this one, there's another interesting thing that I haven't seen a lot of people talk about, and it's the fact that this particular video is supposedly sponsored by Blizzard, which is weird. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff that I want to talk about. So let's get started. I've done the intro to this video about 100 times by now, and I'm sorry if it's a little bit long-winded, but that's just the way it is. Anyways, getting started, one of the first things that they address, and it is referenced multiple times throughout the Rurikhan interview or throughout the two press conferences, is the fidelity of mobile phones. They constantly say these phones nowadays are super powerful. They're just about as powerful as a computer. Like, they're really, really good. And, you know, we can bring in a full-fledged Diablo experience to the phone. And it's like, look, I'm not saying that phones are not powerful, and I don't think anyone is saying that phones are not powerful. Phones just don't have good input methods, and phones don't provide you with an adequate viewing experience when you are playing from the comfort of your home. So it's great for whenever you're playing on the bus. It's great for whenever you are abroad somewhere, you're in a journey, you're in a trip somewhere. It's great, sure, phone, whatever. But ultimately, the input method is still terrible. Like, look, there's no touch screen that will ever replace a controller or a mouse and keyboard. Not going to happen ever in any way, shape, or form. Just not ever going to be a thing. Does not matter how good the phone is. The phone could be more powerful than my Rathalos rig, would not make a difference because it still does not have an adequate input control. Okay? Moving on from that, the other sentence that is echoed greatly across all of these videos is we have multiple Diablo teams across multiple Diablo projects. It's also mentioned multiple times during Blizzard's Q&As and all of this other stuff. And it's like, then give us something. Commit to something, please. Show some commitment to anything. To a Diablo 2 remaster. To a Diablo 3 expansion. To Diablo 4. Commit to one thing that is not a mobile game, because the problem is, particularly because of the fact that you showed it at the end of BlizzCon as the big showstopper, what that tells to people is like, this is our next big thing when it comes to Diablo. That's the feeling that we get, particularly when you have all of your Diablo developers all going up there saying we're super excited about this, and they're really spreading the message we're super excited despite the analysis that I've done. I don't even want to bring that up. Let's just say that everyone's being super honest and they're actually excited about it. It just means that this is the next big thing when it comes to Diablo. And the big problem with this is you will get a new audience with this thing, for sure. Although there is something else that I want to bring about that, but I'm sure that you will find an audience somewhere because Blizzard develops quality games. And I know we've talked about how this is actually a NetEase game, not a Blizzard game, but ultimately it still has, you know, Blizzard supervision, all of this stuff. So maybe the game will end up being really good. And according to Lord Fluffy, who played it, and he's a hardcore Diablo player, he says that he enjoyed it. We'll talk more about that later. So even if it's really good, you need to understand that your core audience, the die-hard Diablo fans, they don't want to play Diablo on their phones. I mean, it's not that they don't want to play Diablo on their phones. They don't want that to be the main Diablo experience for them. Like, they'll even be okay playing Diablo on their phones, like on the side, like maybe when they're, you know, maybe when they're at college, or maybe when they're at work on a work break or something like that. You know, maybe when they're doing their commute, they'll be fine playing Diablo then. But when they get home and they sit in front of their computer, you really think they're going to whip out their phone and then just have like their big wide screen and their friggin' beautiful mouse and keyboard and all of their mega powerful rig, and they're going to whip out their phone and play on their phone when they're home? They're not going to do that. It's just not going to happen. And that's one of the biggest problems. That's why I said commit to something. Give us something. One thing. Diablo 2 remaster, Diablo 3 expansion, Diablo 4, another Diablo project for the PC or console. Anything. Commit to one thing, please. I'm not ordering, I'm not demanding, I'm asking. Please, anything. So anyway, on this particular, you can find this, by the way, if you look it up. I'm probably going to put links in the pinned comment for this video. But this was posted by Blizz Pro. The audio on this is actually really bad, so I try to basically pick up the main talking points of this particular conference. One of the things that I would like to bring up is when Alan Adham, who is one of the founding members of Blizzard, he mentions, like, he's asked about the Diablo audience, and I found that he contradicted himself, because he basically said that the main audience for this game is the die-hard PC players of Diablo. And that definitely shows a bit of a level of a disconnect right there. You know, because like when Blizzard does market research and their research thinks that their die-hard PC players are going to want to play this Diablo Immortal game, I mean, we've seen the result of that particular research during the opening ceremony and the train crash that was the Q&A that followed, right? But then he also says, also for a broader casual Western audience and a younger audience. And it's like, well, I mean, your diehard PC fans are not casual gamers. Your diehard PC fans are not going to be younger for the majority. Most of us are going to be, you know, in our, high 20s, 30s, because we've been playing Diablo for a long time. Sure, there's, like I said, there is a younger audience to be had, but ultimately it's like these don't interconnect. You know, it's not like, oh yeah, the diehard PC players also are casual players and a younger audience. I mean, we all know that a big thing about this is going to be aiming at the Asian audience, even though at the end of this video, I'm going to be giving guys some personal opinions that I'm very suspicious that while this game will definitely be profitable, it will not be nearly as profitable as they are expecting. I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong. I hope the game is super successful. Moving onwards. So they're constantly saying that this is a joint development between them and NetEase, and they say that this game was built from the ground up. And they say that in this press conference. They say that in the Riker interview. And I think they also say it in this press conference, but I don't remember. Basically, they say repeatedly, I think they even said it on stage, that this was a game that was built from the ground up. Now, the problem with them saying that this is a game built from the ground up, before I get to that, Alan Adam also says this is a next generation engine, whereas Diablo 3 is a previous generation engine. So he's saying that the engine that they're using on Diablo Immortal is a next-gen engine, and it's super powerful. It's been built from the ground up. It's got like all of these physics simulation. I'm pretty sure Diablo 3 also has physics simulation. I mean, I've seen corpses explode and get flung off the screen and all of that stuff, so there's definitely physics there too. But he says something about, physics rendering in this next-generation engine, and how Diablo 3 is a previous generation engine. Now, the problem with this is that either we're misunderstanding, I'm not going to make any claims here, but ultimately there's an article right now that I've mentioned on my previous video. This is an article on MMORPG.com where they say that NetEase took some time to speak with Chinese media about its work in partnership with Blizzard Entertainment on Diablo Immortal, forthcoming mobile-only RPG. Since the announcement at this year's Blizzcon, reception by the online community has been hellish, but developers are hopeful that additional development details may ease concerns. Diablo Immortal is being built using NetEase's Messiah engine, a game engine that has been in use since 2010 across a number of its titles. Okay, so you can have a game that's being built from the ground up on an existing engine. Although, when you say I got a game that's being built from the ground up, I assume that you're also building an engine for that game. Especially when you then add that that the engine for this game is a next generation engine, but then there's an article that claims the engine being used on this game is from 2010. Again, I'm not a developer, I'm not working on this, but I find these two things to be a little bit conflicting, and I don't know how to feel about it. We've all seen the similarities between Diablo Immortal and the NetEase thing, Endless of God, how it looks extremely similar. As a matter of fact, I've since then seen another thing that I don't want to show on this video, maybe I'll talk about it later, but I've seen another game that NetEase is also working on that now looks way better than Endless of God. It almost feels like NetEase basically learned a lot of things from Blizzard and are now using that on their future titles. But either way, it's like these are some conflicting reports that we're getting here. But then, this next one, I just can't forgive. Okay, this was said in this particular press conference where Alan Adham said, mobile devices give you opportunities that you do not get on the PC, such as move in one direction while aiming in a different direction. I am not misquoting him. This was pretty much what he said. He said this was an example of something that they could do on mobile that they can't do on PC. And for starters, it's already something that you can definitely do on console with a controller, but I find it particularly hard to come up with a scenario where you can't do this on PC when you have the most complex and customizable control scheme of all times in the form of the keyboard and mouse, or even the option of using a controller on PC. I don't understand how you can say that you couldn't figure out moving in one direction while aiming in a different direction on PC. Like, I'm sorry. I can't. Anyone can instantly tell you, why don't you just put controls on WAS and D so that we can move and then we can aim with the mouse? It's not that hard. Like, see, it took me like 5 seconds to figure out that problem, and I'm pretty sure that there's way more intelligent people over at Blizzard than me. You cannot tell me that Diablo 3 is limited in control scheme that because you have to use your mouse to left click to move. Like, I'm sure that all of the engineers over at Blizzard can come up with different control schemes for Diablo. They did design Diablo 3 for consoles after all. And this statement that, oh, this gives me opportunities that we can't do on the PC. You can move in one direction while aiming in a different one. It's like, come on. He also said the mobile controls do not feel limited at all, and he believes that if you enjoy the desktop experience, you're going to love being able to play it anywhere. And this kind of contradicts itself once again, because it's not you'll be able to play it anywhere. You'll be able to play it anywhere where your phone has a good 4 or 3G connection or Wi-Fi, because this is an MMO and the game is always online. Now, there's a couple more things that are mentioned here, such as instance dungeons do not scale down. I'm going to go into a little bit more depth later down the line on this, and that this is an experience that is a little bit more similar to World of Warcraft than necessarily Diablo. And this is something that is said in this press conference. But again, we'll be talking more about that when I get to the Lord Fluffy portion of this particular video. Now, when it comes to the Asian press conference, and I call this the Asian press conference, that's just an internal reference that I made for myself. This is being posted by a Korean blogger, and I don't speak Korean. I've translated some of the questions using my phone to get a limited understanding of the questions that are being asked of them, because they only really post the responses in English. Again, I will be linking all of these videos. If you want to check this out for yourself, feel free to do so that you can ensure that I am not quoting things out of context and I'm not pulling things out of context. I do believe that this particular press conference was majorly addressing an Asian audience, whereas this one has a major Western audience. As a matter of fact, Riker was present at this particular press conference. You can see him, like if I scroll through the video, you can see, just a second, you can see Riker over here in the back. So this was majorly Western audience. However, in this one, they don't show the audience. They just show Wyatt Chang and Alan Haddam. So again, I'm assuming this was for a majorly Asian audience, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure who was in this press conference. I know that this Korean blogger probably was there because he filmed it, and this video was sponsored by Blizzard. This is the part that I really don't understand. Because again, usually these press conferences aren't made for public uploading, at least from the ones that I've attended. So I find it odd that Blizzard would sponsor a video, especially after the backlash that they got at the opening ceremony because of the messages that are being said in said video. But anyways, that is just a little bit confusing. So the first question that they asked them in this particular press conference was about an autoplay feature for this game. Now, for those of you that do not play games in the mobile market, you might not be aware of this, but there's a lot of games, particularly in Asia, on the mobile market that essentially they play themselves. Like you hit an autoplay button and the game just kind of runs around, does quests. So in the case of Diablo, it'd be something like you'd hit an autoplay button The game would just run around and, you know, collect gold, kill monsters, collect loot, and you just have to basically manage your character a little bit, figure out what items you want to equip on it, do the build, and essentially the, how should I put it, the emphasis of a game like that then becomes if you kind of just like min-maxing your dude to become super powerful, but you don't actually apply your own personal skills to the gameplay, like the game just kind of does it by itself. You just kind of min-max the character and just unleash him upon the world, which has its own appeal, although whether or not that is an appeal that will be something a Diablo audience would want is debatable, but I'm not going to criticize that. But ultimately, the thing that bothered me a little bit is the fact that Wyatt didn't just say no. He said, right now we're focusing on the moment-to-moment gameplay. Once we get that down, we'll see whether or not we choose to implement this feature into the game. Because you got to remember that this is going to be a game that is probably going to make it big on the Asian market, not necessarily the Western market. So there you go. An example of a game that features autoplay, by the way, if you guys are curious, is you can look up, I think it was Lineage 2. There's like a new version of Lineage 2. I saw Swifty play that, and basically you can hit a button and it just plays itself. Uses soul shots and everything. It was like, okay. Not really my thing. Anyway, then they were asked about Blizzard's approach to mobile gaming, and this was the thing that triggered a lot of people into instantly making videos about this and just reporting on this and saying, Blizzard's moving all developers over to mobile, it's like, forget everything, it's the end of times. And I would advise you guys to take what is being said in this press conference with a grain of salt, because like I said, if this is a press conference, and if I'm correct that this is a press conference that is aimed at the Asian market, what Blizzard is doing is giving a strategic answer. Again, I could be wrong. A lot of this stuff is pure speculation. Do not take what I say as a fact. This is an opinion. This is an interpretation from my experience within the industry. So what they say on here is that on their approach to mobile gaming, they say that many Blizzard developers have shifted into mobile gaming in terms of they prefer playing mobile games instead of playing PC games, and that some of their best developers are now working on mobile titles across all of their IPs. Some of those titles will be with external partners like NetEase on Diablo Immortal, whereas many of them will be developed internally only, but basically people just took this answer and they just ran with it. It's like, Blizzard said it! They're just doing all mobile across everything. And I disagree. And let me explain to you why I disagree. I mean, if you've ever been in a company or some kind of a more formal meeting and you are trying to get a big customer to work with your company, you are going to say things that sometimes might not be 100% true or whatever, but basically you're going to say things that are going to make it seem for that person that you are a good prospect as a supplier of a product that that customer wants. So in this case, if I'm correct, and this is majorly aimed at the Asian market, it is in Blizzard's best interest to tell the Asian market, no, dude, a lot of our developers are working on mobile across everything. And then if Diablo Immortal does good, then they go out and they start pumping out more titles into the mobile market. So I don't necessarily believe that what is said in this press conference, while I'm not saying that Adham is lying, I'm saying that he's exaggerating a little bit to make the concept of Blizzard entering the mobile market seem more appealing to people that are interested in a long-term relationship with Blizzard in Asia and in all of these other places. Again, speculation. I'm talking from the experience that I've seen in the industry and just in the business world and all of that stuff. And I could be completely wrong. Maybe Blizzard has shifted some of their best developers into mobile. I don't know. At the end of the day, I don't know. I'm giving you my opinion on what I think about what is being said. That does not mean that I am right. Okay? Moving onwards, he also says that they now have more new products in development than they've ever had before. Now, this is something that concerns me a little bit, because something that we do know about Blizzard is that they've always been a quality over quantity type of game developer. So like, you don't see Blizzard releasing like fucking, 5 titles in 1 year. You don't see Blizzard work on tons and tons. You see Blizzard like really polish a game up to the point where it's sparkling and the best it can possibly be, and then releasing that game. Warcraft 2, Diablo 2, Warcraft 3, World of Warcraft. Regardless of what you think about it, World of Warcraft is the most successful MMO ever made. Think about that. But basically, that's what I'm saying. Like, you look at a Blizzard game and it's something that you can see that they've worked on it for a good long time before actually putting it out there. And I know that there's going to be comments saying, oh, but this game, but that game. Overall, okay? Overall, you cannot deny that there's quality in Blizzard games. And that's a concern when Alan Adham says, oh, dude, we got so many projects in the works right now. And it's like, I would rather you have like 2 or 3, to be honest. They don't even have to be Diablo. They don't even have to be any of your existing IP. But the way that I think of Blizzard is I think you got like maybe 1 or 2 titles in the pipeline and you're really polishing them up for us to get that super polished experience. When you say that we got a bunch of titles, we got a bunch of them on mobile, we got a bunch of them. It just seems more like quantity over quality, whereas Blizzard's business model is the exact opposite of that. So I don't know. Then he mentions also that in terms of maturity, Diablo Immortal is designed for all ages, which again kind of contradicts something that he said earlier, which is we want this for the diehard PC players. Dude, most of the diehard PC players want darker Diablo. That's what they always say, even though I gotta say, I don't really subscribe to that whole darker Diablo. I want it darker. Like, look, Diablo 2 had plenty of vibrant colors, particularly in Act 2. Loot Go Lane, dude. Plenty of reds, plenty of yellows, lots of vibrant colors. So to me, it's not about a darker experience, whether that is, in terms of color palette or whatever. The darker experience comes from the storytelling, not the color palette. But ultimately, when you're talking about the maturity of Diablo Immortal, it's designed for all ages. How the hell are you going to be talking about hell, angels, primevals, and it's going to be for all ages? That doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. That kind of breaks a lot of the points of Diablo if you essentially make, I hesitate to say the word kid-friendly, but when you say all ages, that's what I'm assuming. Kid-friendly Diablo. And again, do not quote me on that. I'm not saying that Diablo Immortal is a kid-friendly Diablo. I'm just saying that you said, in terms of maturity, Diablo Immortal is designed for all ages. Anyways, moving on from this, I wanted to actually go into Lord Fluffy's video. Now, you guys should definitely watch this video. If you watch one video about Diablo Immortal, watch this one. And the reasoning behind that is because Lord Fluffy actually goes deep into game mechanics and all of that stuff. And I'm not going to talk about all of the things that he said, particularly because this video is already pretty long as it is. But I'm going to be talking about, just like the overall feel and a couple of specific features that I really want to get into. So the first thing here is, did Lord Fluffy, who is, for all intents and purposes, a hardcore PC Diablo 3 fan, like he live streams Diablo 3 all the time, runs all of the seasons, Diablo 3 is his game, okay? At least from what I can tell, that's as close to the truth as it gets. This guy loves Diablo 3 on PC to the point I don't think he even likes Diablo 3 on Switch, okay? But basically, he played the game and he says he kind of liked it. For a phone game, he says, I kind of liked it, which then puts things into perspective in terms of both Pallytime and Kaiberries also enjoyed this game. For those of you who don't know them, you should check them out. Pallytime, good friend of mine. Kaiberries, good friend of mine. Check them out. I've asked them, they both also said they enjoyed the game. Pallytime even also has like a 1-hour live stream or whatever of him playing it. He said that after 3 runs, he was able to adapt to the phone controls. This is because he used to be a Halo player or whatever, so he knows how to work with a controller. So he's used to controller input and stuff like that. And that UI, the typical ARPG UI on the phone, he was able to adapt to it just fine. Now, the problem, when he said this, I was like, oh, I was really disappointed. One of the biggest problems that I would find is that he says the maps on Diablo Immortal are static. Now, what does that mean? For those of you that do not know, the maps on Diablo have always been procedurally generated. That means that whenever you go on a map, you never know exactly what you're going to find. You will see certain tile sets that will look familiar. You will know what to expect from, certain staircases that you see in certain things, but usually you will have like a brand new level every time you go through the game, which keeps things fresh, which is pretty cool. Diablo was one of the first games to do that, which was awesome. So the procedural generation has always been a major hallmark of the Diablo franchise. And with static maps, what that means is there's no procedural generated. Maps are what the maps are. They were done, they're done. However, having said that, there will be dynamic quests. So even though you have the same map all the time, NPCs might be in different places giving you different quests, different monsters might spawn. They will still try to potentially randomize the experience one way or another. Now, I'm not sure if the procedurally generated maps was removed as a limitation of the phone. I'm not sure if this is something that they plan on potentially changing in the future. Right now, they are static, and I believe that that is what is planned for the final release. Again, I could be completely wrong. This is what they told Lord Fluffy. We have personal loot like we already have in Diablo. So basically, the loot that drops is for your own characters. He said that the zones felt rather small when compared to Diablo 3 zones. It's going to be 8 areas and 7 dungeons. And the other thing about the dungeons is that they don't actually scale. So you can do them either on solo or with a party. But if you do them with a party, they scale for 4 players, I believe. That was what was told. Which that is also a bit of a problem. Because like I say, I'm just together with a friend of mine and we're both playing Diablo Immortal. And it's like just the two of us. If we're overpowered, we should be able to tackle the dungeon no problem. But if we're just starting out, we'll have to tag along with randoms. And, I like the flexibility of sometimes not running with randoms, but whatever. It is what it is. That, I guess, is what Wyatt meant when he mentioned that it was more like a World of Warcraft experience than necessarily the typical Diablo stuff. Lord Fluffy also felt that the demo felt pretty easy. I'm not particularly surprised by that. Usually most video game developers will have super easy demos and environments for a convention so that players don't feel like they're wasting their time dying repeatedly, with the exception, of course, from software, because they just don't give a fuck. It's like, you're not good enough, die, next in line, please. But that's just the way it goes. Then he also talked about skill combos, like the fact that the monk has a kick that you can use on walls, which basically means that you can do the kick twice, and that's pretty cool. Or the skill that the mage has, that he can put like a crystal, then you can shoot a ray of frost through that crystal, and it can just kind of spread the ray of frost in the 3 different directions, hit 3 different mobs, which is pretty cool. And overall, if he had to classify it, he said he would give it a 5 or a 6 out of 10 for what he experienced in the demo, which is not really that high. But ultimately, these are all the things that I saw recently in regards to Diablo Immortal. It's like, again, there's a lot of conflicting reports here. There's a lot of weird things being said, like Blizzard's gonna go all mobile, and I just think that ultimately we can't read too much into the whole everything's mobile from now on. I don't think that's going to happen. But the biggest problem is what happened afterwards. If you look at Blizzard's stock right now, it dropped hard. And there's people that are celebrating this. Again, I'm not celebrating this. This is fucking terrible. This means that potentially a lot of people in Blizzard could lose their jobs. So I don't celebrate this. This is fucking atrocious. I believe that around BlizzCon, this stock was trading at 70 something dollars. And right now it's trading at $55. That's a big fucking drop. I'm not big into stocks or anything like that. That's a big fucking drop. And now I want to look into why could it have dropped? Because ultimately, if you look at it, it's like, sure, fans are mad. Fans being mad does not necessarily equate to stocks dropping, because from a business perspective, like I said, Diablo Immortal should be a solid business plan because you're going into the mobile market. And the mobile market, you know, it's leagues when it comes to gaming, when it comes to profits, when it comes to making money. You can make a lot more money on the mobile market than on the traditional market with $60 games. Again, like, I'm not saying that's what I like. I'm not saying that's what you should like. I'm just saying that is a fact right there. You can make a lot more money on mobile, period. That's just a fact. Now, why would the stock drop? And more importantly, you would figure that NetEase's stock would climb, but no, NetEase's stock dropped as well, which is really weird. I don't understand why both these companies' stocks would drop. Like, I could see Blizzard's stock dropping a little, not this much, but NetEase would grow, because, I mean, they're going to be working on a Blizzard license. That should be, like, a big deal. So that I don't understand, but then it's like, look, I don't do mobile gaming. As you guys know, I don't play a lot of mobile games. But one of the things that we need to consider when we're talking about mobile games, you see people playing mobile games all the time. Now, the problem is, when people are playing mobile games, are they actually playing action RPGs? Most of the times, no. Most of the times people are playing like the fucking Clash of Clans, Clash Royale, all that other bullshit stuff that I really don't care about. And I don't see people playing RPGs on mobile games all that much. And I think that might be where the problem lies. That might be why Blizzard stock is dropping, because it's like, yeah, the mobile market is great for certain games, but is it great for action RPGs? Well, let's take a look. I was doing a little bit of a look around on how can I measure a success of a mobile game, because there's just so fucking many of them. So I came across this article from pocketgamer.biz, and basically they say 11 mobile games that have made more than 1 billion. And it's like, well, I mean, if a game's made more than 1 billion, I would say that's a pretty successful mobile game, right? So the very first game that we have on this list, Pokemon Go. We all know why this game is so popular, because it is a Pokemon game on your cell phone. It appeals to people collecting it. It's got a strong franchise behind it. And most importantly, this is not like a high real-time action game. This is a game where you go out with your phone. Usually what you're already doing, you're already out and about. If you got your phone on you, most likely you're taking a stroll or something. Sure, you'll pop up Pokemon Go, catch a Pokemon, you know, tag a whatever Pokestop, get some items, and move on with your life. I myself play the crap ton of Pokemon Go, and Pokemon Go is essentially a reskin of another game that Niantic has done in the past, which is Ingress. Don't believe me? Check out Ingress. Figure it out. But ultimately, it's neither here nor there. Nobody can deny that Pokemon Go is a super successful mobile game. Moving onwards, another mobile game, Clash Royale. Now, I don't know exactly how Clash Royale works, but from the gameplay that I've seen, it feels like some kind of mix of RTS with turn-based, because there's some aspects of it that are in real time. Then you click the cards, you make your dudes go and whatever. And I also believe that it is asynchronous, right? It's not actual multiplayer. But ultimately what I'm saying is, like, again, not an action game. It's a strategy game. You know, you build your army, your deck, and whatever, and then you attack someone else, and then you send out your dudes. You're not actually, you know, you're not moving a character around and pressing skills and doing that kind of stuff. So it's basically, these are the kind of games that you can whip out your phone, catch a Pokemon, put it away, or whip out your phone. Damn it. Ugh, website. Whip out your phone, click a couple of dudes into attacking whatever, win a round, put it away. Then you got Honor of Kings. Now, this one surprised me. I would not expect a MOBA to be among, like, the big top dogs. So this one, to me, is a bit of an oddity that it's so successful. But again, it could just be because I just have no clue how the mobile market works. But ultimately, this particular game, I think the appeal there is that it looks a whole lot like League of Legends. So there's a lot of people that are playing because, like, hey, I can play League of Legends on my phone. It kind of feels like that. But either way, this is definitely an action game, a competitive game, which is why I was surprised that there was one game that was like that on this list. Then moving on, we've got Mobile Strike. I didn't even see what gameplay on this was like. They definitely have a marketing budget. They got friggin' Arnold Schwarzenegger and one of the Asian actresses from Kill Bill on this, and a bunch of other known people that were on this. It was weird, but again, this is one of those strategy titles. It even seems to be turn-based. So again, one game that you can pull out, do a couple of actions, put back on your phone. Summoner's War, turn-based game. Again, a game you can pull out, do a couple of battles, put it back on your phone. Put it back on your pocket. Monster Strike. I don't remember what the gameplay on this was like, but again, turn-based. You can whoop it out, do a couple of battles, put it back on your pocket. Game of War, Fire Age. This was another RTS game. Not even RTS, turn game, not real time. Disney Tsum Tsum. This is kind of like Candy Crush, but it's got physics and cute little animals on it. Then you got Candy Crush itself. And then you got Clash of Clans, which is like Clash Royale. Better yet, Clash Royale is like Clash of Clans, because I believe that Clash of Clans came first. So it's, again, another game that you pull out your phone, send a couple of dudes on a battle, you do a battle, put it back on. These are not games that you have to, you know, be playing on the edge of your seat, like doing the stuff, doing the moment-to-moment gameplay that you do in Diablo. So like I said, out of this list, oh yeah, I forgot to mention Puzzle and Dragons, again, a little bit like Candy Crush with some RPG elements, so turn-based. But again, on this list of 11 games, there is one action game, and it's a MOBA. One action game. So I wonder if the reason that Blizzard stock is dropping is because investors are like, dude, action RPG on the mobile market? Not to mention that Blizzard, you guys don't really do mobile other than Hearthstone, and Hearthstone doesn't even show up on that list of mobile games, which I was surprised. I was expecting to see Hearthstone there, which is another Blizzard game. It's actually a really good game to play on mobile because you can just whoop it out, do a quick match, put it back in your pocket. Diablo, I feel, is more about longer sessions. I don't think it's something that, at least I don't play Diablo on like a quick burst. I don't go into Diablo and then like I'll do a bounty and put it back. That's not what I see. So it's weird. Like Diablo, you usually play for a couple of hours to grind out some loot. You get your loot, you optimize your character, and then you put it away. But I don't know, dude. I don't know. Again, guys, I'm not doing this to promote hatred. I'm not doing this for boycotting. I'm doing this because I would so love for the next time that I do a video on this that I could just tell you, no guys, just forget about all that junk that we're talking about. Like, look, here it is. Here's the next actual Diablo thing for Diablo fans. I don't know. Either way, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.